I'm not just saying,
I've been sent by Benjamin Netanyahu to get his Twitter.
This is fucking hilarious.
What is the? I still don't get the show. Help me understand what this means.
Yeah, Adam, what does that even?
I forgot he was in here. He doesn't know what it means.
Of my life. Who's the mystery guest? There's no mystery guest. It's in the fucking chat. It's literally in the title. Okay, none of you guys actually ever look at the title, but is Julie Gonzales. She's running for Senate in the state of Colorado. Okay. Here, let's watch her ad
one
first.
look around and ask, who's in control? Insurance companies dictate our doctors, rogue, masked agents decide whether our neighbors stay or disappear. The establishment, the oligarchs, they tell us that they have enough for bombs and for ballrooms, but that they ain't got enough for us. I'm Julie Gonzales, and I'm running for the U.S. Senate to take back control for us.
Hi.
At the state capitol, I brought
Nice to
in
meet
$500
you.
million for
Running
affordable
in.
housing, held toxic polluters to account. We codified abortion protections into state law. But what are we getting out of Washington? John Hickenlooper has been in office for over 20 years. I know we're not fooled by his so-called common sense approach, because there is no sense in voting for Donald Trump's nominees or parading across the country to tell us we don't want universal health care when millions of families are struggling to make ends meet every month. This go-along to get-along politics is robbing
come a
us
little bit closer.
blind, while
So I'm gonna put you in the
billionaires
frame,
and the
sorry.
politicians they control sit pretty with the status quo. You want to buy a house? Good luck. You want to start a family? How much money you got in your bank account? That's how the establishment has rigged our economy. Colorado, we can have nice things. We just need a senadora who will fight for us. Our campaign is built to take on the machine and win. We start right here, right now, building a movement that is ready to rip the reins away from the billionaires and put them back into the hands of the people. I'm Julie Gonzales, and it's time to take back control for Colorado.
Banger. All right, Julie Gonzales is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Right as we start, we have a thing where we bring in some gifts. Here you go. Thank you. Some of your favorite things, apparently.
Orale, thank you so much. Oh, this is so kind. Thank you.
What? Explain to the chat what your requests. Well, not your request, but what
Some
we found in
tea?
your with our deep insight, deep research.
Well, I will say I love me some tea. I'm always a fan of a good chai. I love some mangoes. But the thing I will say is that when folks ask me, what is my favorite snack? I will say chisme. Good gossip. I'm here for it. That is the thing that brings me great joy. And so I'm glad to be able to visit with you and talk about this moment.
All right. Julie Gonzales, the candidate for U.S. Senate in Colorado, current state senator in Colorado, SD 34, Jefferson Park, Highland, Sunnyvale, Sun Valley, Globeville, and the like. I'm not going to get into all of it. It's too many places that you're covering. The primary date is on June 30th, 2026, and your opponent is John Hickenlooper.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm gonna get right into it. You were born on the San Carlos Apache Reservation in Arizona. You were raised in South Texas. You're the sixth of 7 kids. Your mom was a rodeo queen who became a teacher. Your dad was a cattle rancher who is now a medical cannabis grower in northern New Mexico. Why do you call yourself a senadora? And how does growing up along the militarized southern border shape how you talk about immigration today?
Absolutely. Well, I'll just say that my family, we're the kind of old school Chicanos where we didn't cross the border crossed us. And, growing up for my mom, growing up in the valley in southern Colorado, She got married, had 2 kids, and then was widowed. And no one was swooping in to save her. And so she was widowed for 9 years before she met my dad. And then my dad, when my mom was pregnant with me, got a job managing 5 different ranches on the San Carlos Apache Reservation in San Carlos, Arizona. And that's why we, the family joke is like I was made in Colorado, but born in Arizona, and lived there on the res until I was 10 years old. And I have to be very honest, for me as a Chicana, being on the reservation where it was so clearly divided between Apache, indigenous people, and white folks, I was neither. And so I remember having a lot of questions around identity and what have you. But like 5-year-old Julie didn't have an answer for like how race works or how power works or anything like that. When I was 10, my dad got a job managing a different ranch, this time on the border of South Texas. And we moved there in the summer of 1993. And so the history nerds in the chat will know that in January of 94, that's when NAFTA was enacted. And so I, as a middle schooler, watched the militarization of the border play out. All of a sudden, Border Patrol agents had keys to all of the fences and all the gates. All of a sudden, you could hear back in those days, the immigration enforcement officers, back then they were INS, right? Not ICE.
Yeah.
They'd talk about, oh, look, we see some electronic monitoring equipment showing some activity. And my dad would get on a CB radio and say, we just moved cattle into that pasture. It demonstrated to me that we allowed policies that allowed the free movement of goods and services across borders, but not people, did not give human beings that same dignity. And then when I, came up in the immigrant rights movement, people would say, well, if you don't like it here, go back to where you came from, as if, what, you're going to deport me back to the res in Arizona? Are you going to deport me back to where my people are from Southern Colorado? Like, no, I critique this country because we have been here since before it was this country. And we demand better. So right now, seeing how ICE is terrorizing our communities, seeing how even American citizens are being murdered in broad daylight is a demonstration of the impunity with which ICE is acting in this moment and why I believe it needs to be abolished.
Okay, hell yeah. Before you ran for anything, you spent 12 years as a community organizer at Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition, Padres y Jóvenes Unidos. Am I saying that right?
Jóvenes.
Jóvenes Unidos, Reform Immigration for America, and the Meyer Law Office. You've said the day Denver passed the Public Safety Enforcement Priorities Act in 2017 was the day you decided to file for office. Tell us about the act and why do you believe this is the right time to enter federal politics?
Well, when Donald Trump came down that golden escalator, right, back in 2015, by that point, we had seen both Democrats and Republicans be completely willing to chuck immigrants under the bus in order to score cheap political points.
Yeah.
Right? Like, back in those days, Barack Obama, as great a president as he was, also deported a record number of immigrants, right? And I came up in the time when, saying I'm undocumented was an act of courage, right? Because the Obama administration was actively deporting Dreamers and was a founder of the national network United We Dream, right? Like, we had started to organize local politics, state politics, federal politics. And honestly, like, at that time, I'd talk to local elected officials. I'd talk to state elected officials who would tell me, I'd love to help you, but I just don't have any immigrants in my district. And it's like, you're about to find out that is not, in fact, the case. And look, we had to, when he came down that golden escalator, that was the first time I ever thought, I am sick and tired of trying to explain the reality of folks in my community and folks in those elected officials' communities. And so I stepped up into electoral politics for the first time.
Yeah.
Was working to get Bernie Sanders elected, was working to, after he ended his campaign, worked to get Hillary Clinton elected. And then we passed the Denver sanctuary policy in 2017. And that to me was the first indication post the first Trump election that, you know what, even though he had won, it didn't mean that organizing stopped. It didn't mean that we couldn't still fight to achieve concrete and lasting policy change to improve people's lives. And then 2 years later, I ran in that first blue wave in 2018 into the state Senate. And I'll be really honest, I ran in a 5-way race. A lot of people were like, there's no way an organizer can win. And we crushed it. And over the past 8 years, I've been really proud of what we've been able to accomplish.
So there is a little bit on your background that I'm actually very interested in finding out about. You brought up Bernie Sanders, and you were initially, a few months ago, you told the local news that you got elected to the state Senate thanks to the support from the Democratic Socialists of America, but your DSA membership has lapsed, as far as I understand. And when they asked you if you're philosophically a Democratic Socialist, you replied that you're a Democrat. Why did you leave the Democratic Socialists of America, and do you identify as a socialist?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that question, because when I first ran in 2018, DSA was newly organized, and I thought that they were doing an incredible job of organizing young people and inviting them to participate in politics in a very, very different kind of way. And we crushed it, thanks to that support. I also believe as an organizer that it really matters to show up to sign on as a member, but then not show up to meetings, not participate in the actual work of the organization, does a disservice to the organization. And so I was a member for a year, but I'll also say I was completely overwhelmed as a state legislator who only at the time got like one legislative aide. And the amount of work that we were navigating was overwhelming. And so my membership lapsed. I still believe I'm like philosophically aligned as a leftist, as a progressive. I carry a lot of like the democratic socialist values. And I think that we share that same level of analysis in terms of who are the folks who are rigging our economy and who are pitting people against one another, and how do we then go and do the work to advance the change that we all know that we need.
Okay. Your opponent, John Hickenlooper, was recently fined just $200 for delaying the disclosure of his stock trading that netted him hundreds of thousands of dollars on a broadband company and thousands on Palantir stock. He sits on the Commerce Committee. He oversees broadband and telecom. Obviously, there's speculation that he's trading on non-publicly available information. Do you support banning congressional stock trading? If so, is it simply because you didn't buy the dip, even though John did? Or is it because you paper-handed and you sold too early and you weren't diamond-handing?
I wish I had it to where I could like have enough money to go and do that. No,
You're saying you're broke.
I
and
am
that's why.
broke.
Yeah.
I know what it is to like live paycheck to paycheck. In the state Senate, I earn like $43,000 a year.
That's
Good times.
Damn.
Yeah. And so, look, John Hickenlooper came into the U.S. Senate with a estimated net worth of, I think, around $16 million. And now, as he is running for re-election and I'm primarying him, he is sitting at around $31 million.
Damn, he doubled up. Been quite
Must
beneficial.
Must be nice.
He's just a really good stock trader.
Which is why I support not only a ban on insider trading, requiring those like stronger ethics and transparency reforms, but then also it's why believe that there should not be a revolving door to shift from being a legislator to a lobbyist. It's why I believe that we should actually institute term limits.
I need to show something to you that you may or may not be familiar with. This is one of my favorite old clips. So,
oh my God.
John Hickenlooper is a man with conviction. Okay? He's a man with conviction. Now, hear me out. He was so invested in the notion that fracking fluid was not destroying the natural water supply that he actually went and straight up drank fracking fluid to prove that point. All right, well, that's the speculation. So, Chet, can you guys find the clip of this for the record? I need to look at it again because are you willing to go to the distance? Will you drink fracking liquid?
I'm sorry,
to win this race?
If that's a requirement in order to serve in the U.S. Senate from Colorado, sorry, y'all, there's a hard line, right? But what's fascinating is that not only did John Hickenlooper write about this in his, there you go.
Yeah.
Not only has he talked about drinking fracking fluid, so too has Chris Wright, the energy secretary, who Hick voted to confirm.
Do you think there is it's like an Illuminati ritual where like if you're a real one, you have to do this? Like if you're gonna be in the pocket of big oil and gas and be invested in destroying the ecosystem, then you have to literally drink just a little bit of poison.
Sat down with
Here, let's watch this real quick before you answer.
They have
Maybe
a
it'll change your answer if you watch him drink it.
fluid that is made out of food additives. You can drink it. We did drink it around the tables, almost ritual-like in a funny way. But it demonstrated that
it was like a pact,
not like a pact. It was a demonstration. A demonstration. We had environmental community representatives. We had industry representatives. Everybody around the table.
It's not on a.
Yeah. Wait, that's not the video. This is the video.
To your health.
Oh, this is Chris Wright.
The longer lives and healthier lives of billions of people around the world from oil and gas. Cheers.
Cheers.
This is the freakiest thing. How does that make you feel?
It is so cringe. It is so ugly to see people making light of a process that, first and foremost, is destroying our planet. I've also talked to the survivors of homes that have exploded due to being so close to where fracking is taking place in Colorado. I've spoken to those family members and survivors. And so to see them making light of a process that is destroying people and our planet in order to jack up their own personal profits is gross. And if that is what it takes in order to be inducted into the establishment, hard pass.
Okay. Hickenlooper has also spent his entire political career to the right of single payer. As governor, he helped tank Colorado's universal health care amendment in 2016. He then ran for president in 2019, declaring Democrats are not socialists and argued Medicare for all should not be a litmus test. He ran for Senate in 2020 on a public option that he openly framed as a substitute for Medicare for all, telling debate audiences single payer was an evolution, not a revolution that could take 15 years. As senator, he's never co-sponsored Bernie's Medicare for all. How do you envision implementing a system different from that of your opponent?
First and foremost, I show up and listen to people who oftentimes have either felt taken for granted by the party or not taken into account by the party at all, right? And as Hickenlooper's always been an executive, right? He was a business leader. He was an oil and gas executive, then a business leader, then mayor, then governor, then ran for president. And when that didn't work out because he was out there telling people across the country that Americans did not want Medicare for all, Chuck Schumer then voluntold him to run for the U.S. Senate. There are clips of him from that first campaign saying, I'm not cut out to be in the Senate. But then he changed his tune and then ran. Look, at the end of the day, I think that no one is coming to save us but us. And so it requires a different approach to our politics. It requires showing up, listening to people, reminding them that we can have nice things if we're willing to stand up and fight for them.
Yeah. There's obviously a lot of differences between you and Hickenlooper in terms of your attitude towards ICE as well. You already said that you want to abolish ICE. Hickenlooper's call for the overhaul of ICE, which I think is the wishy-washy focus-tested group that or focus group tested messaging that centrist Democrats, corporate Democrats oftentimes deploy. But what do you think is the difference between your stances, and do you believe that ICE should be prosecuted, not just abolished, but prosecuted for their crimes?
So let me take a step back and just share that the year that I graduated from high school, I'm 43, the year that I graduated from high school in 2001 is when the DREAM Act was first introduced. The DREAM Act is now old enough to get a beer, and it is older than ICE. And so many of these establishment politicians love to just talk about like, oh no, but ICE is an important part of our federal government. No, it isn't. It is it is a system. It is an agency and department that has existed for less time than the solutions that we have known that we have needed for decades. The cruelty has always been the point when it comes to immigration and customs enforcement. And I have seen firsthand doing immigrant rights organizing for like 20 years, both out in community and now at the Capitol and in the state Senate, seeing how ICE lies. ICE lies to local law enforcement, to local elected officials, to state elected officials. They're lying to the American people. And then Hick's response is, well, let's just have them put on body cameras. And that will be the reforms that we need. Let's have them take off their masks.
They want to film the process to cut video footage anyway. As a matter of fact, the guy in one of the ICE agents that shot one of the civilians in Minneapolis, he had his phone out. The one who shot Renee Good, he had his phone in one hand because he was filming the footage. So it's clearly not a solution whatsoever. There needs to be accountability.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about abolishing ICE, replacing it with a system that works, breaking up the Department of Homeland Security, right? Yeah. Because there is a whole history around how DHS and ICE specifically came to be. And that goes back to the fear-mongering that took place in the aftermath of 9/11, right? Where all of a sudden you saw immigration and criminality being conflated, and every immigrant was a potential terrorist. Every immigrant was a potential criminal that needed to get weeded out. And ICE has been the police force to try to inflict as much harm as possible. And quite frankly, I've seen what happens to good people when they get swooped up and caught up in ICE's dragnet policies. I've seen inside of the detention center. I worked as a paralegal at an immigration and criminal defense firm for years, where we would witness the extent to which ICE would lie with impunity and then have to back off only after they got caught. I've been inside those detention centers. I've seen it firsthand.
So speaking of the detention centers, the ICE detention center run by GEO Group in Aurora holds over 1,500 inmates in what some reports describe as horrific conditions. There's moldy food. People earn $1 per day in this voluntary labor program. Do you view this labor program as a continuation of the carceral system that grew out of runaway slave catching? And do you believe private prisons should be abolished?
Let me tell you that story because I was a paralegal working alongside several of those immigrant detained clients who ended up being the lead plaintiffs in that litigation. And my homie David Seligman from Towards Justice, who's now running for Attorney General, and my bestie, Hans Meyer, who was the immigration attorney who I worked alongside, were like the legal minds who understood that sometimes you need to file the litigation in order to create the political space to then force change. I'm so proud of the way that those detained clients said, I have nothing to lose, let me go and try to advance this class action suit. A decade on, and that case is finally coming up for its day in court, and I couldn't be prouder. But what is also clear is that your connection to the runaway slave patrols and the attempts by ICE to force detained people to conduct labor that they should be paid for a thriving wage, a minimum wage at least, not $1 a day, at risk of being thrown into solitary confinement if they refused, right? That is so closely related to the history of slavery in this country, the history of forced labor in this country, and it is why engaging in this work on many different fronts, whether it's organizing, whether it's legal, whether it's policy change, whether it's protest, all of those tools and tactics are needed in order to force that change to happen.
GEO Group wants to build a second detention center now and at the old Hudson Correctional Facility on the Eastern Plains. When you're a U.S. Senator, how will you work to stop these new ICE detention facilities from springing up in your backyard?
Yeah, I'll say that Aurora, Colorado was the innovator. Back in 1987, actually, the GEO Group and the Aurora Detention Center was where for-profit immigration detention got its start. And so I feel like we have a responsibility in Colorado to end all of that private immigration detention, because what is clear is that at every single step of the immigration deportation machine, there's a profit motive that exists. Whether it's surveillance with corporations like Flock and Palantir, right, who are monetizing surveillance of all of us, whether it's the detention corporations that are profiting like GEO Group and Aurora, Core Civic, whether it's, Key Lime Air and the air companies and the bus companies who are profiting off of removal. When you actually strip out that profit motive, I was talking to my friend Chris Newman from Endelon, the National Day Laborers Organizing Network, and he was like, look, given this latest congressional spending budget approval, ICE now has more money funded to it per year than the IDF, right? And it's like, when you look at that level of resource that is being directed to inflict cruelty and pain so that corporations can profit, makes you ask the question, isn't there a better way? Couldn't we do things differently? Strip out that profit motive, ensure that people are treated with dignity and respect, ensure that there's enough immigration judges so that people don't have to wait, decades for their case to come up in court. We know what the solutions are, man. We just need to go and do the work and have leaders willing to stand up to ICE, say, hell no, abolish it, prosecute, break up DHS, and then do the work to build a system that works for us all.
Yeah. So you have a very interesting background and a personal experience with the criminal justice system as well. In 2019, you stood on the Colorado Senate floor and you told your colleagues that your own father-in-law had been murdered and his killer was never prosecuted, and said, even if they had caught him, that you couldn't support executing him. You came back the next year with a Republican co-sponsor and abolished Colorado's death penalty. Meanwhile, Trump's day one executive order, 14164, directs attorney generals to seek the death penalty for every capital crime committed by an undocumented immigrant. Will you co-sponsor Bernie and Ayanna Pressley's federal death penalty prohibition act? And what does federal abolition look like under a Trump Department of Justice that's specifically racializing who gets executed?
Oh my gosh. I will.
Can I give you some
Yeah.
notes? I don't know what it is, but I'm seeing a lot of chatters, first of all, that don't know your background.
Sure.
That don't know the amount of time and effort that you've put in to all of these things that we're talking about. And you can start off by saying yes and then continue with the rest of because I know where you're coming from, but they don't.
Yeah.
And they're being dickheads right now. And I'm trying to, get them to chill the fuck out as well. But just, you can start off with a yes, and then explain it, which I feel like would be a little bit, maybe would cause dummies in my community to be more understanding of where you're coming from.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the notes. And also, I'm a person who likes to provide context because I think that so much of this work requires nuance. And so thank you. I'll say that, when I came into the legislature and I thought it was just immoral that the state could say that killing someone is wrong, and so we're going to punish you by killing you. I just thought that was hypocritical and immoral.
Yeah.
And so, but also I served alongside in the state Senate and in the state House, two people who had been directly impacted, losing their sons to murder. And just having to sit with that, it taught me that sometimes there are issues that are very partisan, are very Democratic or Republican. And then there were also other policies that there wasn't a red-blue split, right? Like I worked alongside a Republican who grew up in the South and read Bryan Stevenson's Just Mercy, and then was like, his mind was changed and said, this is wrong. And we were able to advance that policy to abolish the death penalty in Colorado with bipartisan support. It demonstrates that sometimes, when you actually do the work to listen to people, even, I don't care who you voted for in the last election or how much money you got in your bank account or whatever, if you're willing to stand up and do the right thing, that matters. And so, thank you for asking about that, because it was the first time it was the first big policy fight that I engaged in where you had to really stop and listen. And especially so with people who had been impacted directly, having their loved ones be murdered and then have to grapple with what does that look like to actually seek justice.
So you'll use the experience that you have to try to advance the Bernie and Ayanna Presley's federal death penalty prohibition act then?
100%, yeah, absolutely.
And
the last part of your question was about
what does it look like to work within the Trump DOJ? From your experience of crafting bipartisan legislature?
Well, sir, have you yet received your administrative subpoena?
I have not.
I mean, that to me is, I don't mean to make light of it, right? But also it's absurd, right? This DOJ is going and threatening people who it deems as targets, who it deems as threats, with the full weight and force of the federal government to come and try and target people, right?
And what it perceives as a threat, because the reason why what they're trying to criminalize is obviously political dissent.
Absolutely.
What they're trying to abolish is the First Amendment. This is a very devastating precedent that they've set out to change. But the actions that they're trying to target in this circumstance is the delivery of humanitarian aid. I went to Cuba with not only a journalism visa, but also on a humanitarian aid mission.
Mm-hmm.
And because the administration is considered the administration considers Cuba to be a state-sponsored terror, a ridiculous designation that I think is morally repugnant, and our actions are even worse than just that designation alone against the Cuban population. But they don't want, they want that to be illegal somehow.
Yeah.
and it's ridiculous. No other country has this kind of rule or restriction against what people can and can't do in Cuba. Like if I'm a Canadian citizen, I'm a Turkish citizen as well, I'm dual citizen. So if I went to Cuba as a Turkish citizen, I could do whatever I want. I can stay at whichever hotel I want, do whatever I want in Cuba. As an American citizen, I have these ridiculous restrictions, and it goes unnoticed. And I hope that people will see this as a moment and really reconsider their lack of interest in what we've done to these other countries, including Cuba.
You know, part of what I wanted to take sort of 2 points of what you said. One around, you know, how to advance abolition or criminal justice reform policies in the context of the Trump administration when the Trump administration is acting with impunity and threatening to go after its perceived threats, right? I will just say that, I mean, there's only one person who's a 34-time convicted felon, right? And he's the president of the United States, full stop. So he should know he should know, understand, and recognize the importance of criminal justice reform, clemency, right? Like the rule of law. That I'm going to set that aside for a second, though, and talk about Cuba and how this all fits in to this politics that has resulted in endless wars, right? Because I do think that actually the two things are connected. And we saw, right, that Secretary of State Marco Rubio, another person that Hickenlooper voted to confirm, played this game of regime change first in Venezuela. Instead of declaring an act of war and starting there, they used some sort of trumped up drug charges and engaged in that with a quickness. I think they thought that they were going to play the same playbook in Iran. And it's clear that that has not worked. There was no plan to get in, get out. There was no justification to begin this war in the first place. And there's clearly, when we're spending $1 billion a day, no plan to get us out. But then you see that they are now setting up what is going to be the thing after we end the war in Iran, because that's not going well. And it looks like it's going to be Cuba.
Secure a quick victory in Cuba in the same way that that they perceive what they did in Venezuela to be a victory as well. It's horrifying, and how little we care about other human beings is shocking to me, even though I know the depravity of the American state at times, especially as it pertains to foreign policy. But we were talking about clemency and criminal justice reform. Well, your state of Colorado has a governor and a former r/neoliberalism moderator, Jared Polis. He granted clemency to Tina Peters, a former county clerk who was serving a prison sentence after being convicted of allowing unauthorized access to voting machines in the aftermath of the 2020 election. The Colorado Dems censured him. He came back today, I think, with a tape over his mouth in one of the Zoom sessions that they were doing. What's your personal take on the situation as someone who is invested in criminal justice reform? Do you believe Tina Peters was simply a patriot trying to unrig the 2020 election?
No. Yeah, dude. Okay. Jared Polis is a multimillionaire who thinks that he is always the smartest person in the room. Look, when he first ran, I was so excited about his candidacy and campaign because he was talking about being a champion on immigrant rights. He was talking about being a champion on cannabis legislation. And I was like really excited about that, right? Someone who couldn't be bought by the corporate lobby, right? Like, and now 8 years on, a new governor can't come quick enough. And what has been incredibly frustrating, right? Tina Peters was a Republican clerk and recorder who got sucked into the Trump big lie, and she committed multiple felonies and misdemeanors and was prosecuted in one of the most Republican counties in the state of Colorado and convicted by a jury of her peers. For Jared Polis to then go and say, and for months hold on anybody being able to access clemency or pardons in order to wait until 2 days after our legislative session concluded to then drop this. I think that he called Lauren Boebert before he called Democrats, right, to let them know.
Bipartisanship.
God. And now that I was one of the 700 Democrats who said, hell no, he needs to be held to account and recommended his censure. And
he's a political prisoner now because of you.
Oh my gosh. Don't threaten him with a good time. But genuinely, it is when men who have incredible amounts of personal wealth finally find out the consequences of their actions, and then they act as if they are being targeted and persecuted. Come on. He is suffering the consequences of his own actions. And here we are, right?
Don't you feel like
Also,
he's faced tremendous adversity as a Redditor, though? As a person who was a moderator of the r/neoliberalism subreddit?
that man has never had a boss in his entire life. I feel zero empathy for him and his millions and millions of dollars. He can wipe away his tears with that money and be held to account for his consequence. What I worry, though, is that he is trying to set himself up for some sort of political encore after being in after serving as our governor. And all I can tell you, man, is that not only on this issue, he has vetoed already once and is threatening to veto a second time the Worker Protection Act, which would make it easier in Colorado for workers to unionize. He is, I know, super, like, so oppressed.
Drama queen. Drama queen.
Like, miss me with that. Sorry. And look, not only on this, around clemency for Tina Peters, threatening to veto the Worker Protection Act, which is the main priority of labor unions in the state of Colorado. He also rolled out the welcome carpet for Palantir to come to Colorado. Look, I worked on a bill to require that ICE goes and gets a warrant before they can access Coloradans' personal identifying information. 6 weeks after he signed that bill into law, he then tried to direct his own agencies in the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment to comply with the ICE administrative subpoena. And a whistleblower took him to court. I had to testify in that case to tell the judge about the intent of our law and why it was clear that Jared Polis, our dear governor, was trying to subvert the intent and the plain text of the statute that we wrote.
Yeah, he's terrible. But I think, like, Jared Polis and Hickenlooper are of the same, cut from the same cloth. Very wealthy dudes, very out of touch. And on top of that, like, they might have some redeemable qualities every now and then in office, like, but ultimately their output broadly is not ever going to center the working class in Colorado. One of the examples that I would like to use now is Hickenlooper has taken over $270,000 from AIPAC-aligned donors since his bid to become senator in his 2020 campaign. You've called AIPAC support for Hickenlooper repulsive and immoral. You've said you take zero corporate PAC dollars, $0 from AIPAC in particular. Why do you hate AIPAC so much? Do you not want my favorite emotional support apartheid state's voice to be heard and represented adequately in American Congress?
Look, there is so much money infecting our politics right now. I think that we ought to, I think that the Democratic Party needs to stop being the, like, Diet Coke version of being bought and sold to dark money, full stop. And I also think that the way that AIPAC is going about its donations to support candidates is repulsive. I take zero AIPAC dollars, and I think that instead we should all work together to ensure the safety, security, and self-determination of all people who are living in Gaza right now. Like, that to me is the path forward. But what is clear is that instead, AIPAC pushes a politics that makes it easier for politicians to just shut up and say nothing than to speak out when there are war crimes playing out on our phones that we can all witness. When there is a genocide that is taking place, and if you don't believe me, look at where Amnesty International, look at where the International Consortium of Genocide Scholars.
I can't hear you, actually. Again, you're bringing up these things, but this is hurting my feelings.
I'm sorry.
And my feelings are much more important than the safety and security of millions of Palestinians. What do you have to say to that?
This isn't about your feelings. Sorry. Let us actually ground ourselves in the lived experiences and the harm that Palestinians, and also, I will also say that there are plenty of Israelis who are also as viciously critical of the Netanyahu government's actions. Look,
Israel is a small nation. Israel's a
true.
small nation, size of New Jersey.
And
I rest my case.
Feelings about the dark money that is impacting our politics cannot carry over the day. We're in a real inflection point right now, I think, as a Democratic Party, as to who we are going to be and who we are going to fight for. And I am trying to do the work to return Colorado and the American politics to being by, for, and of working people.
Will you sign on to Block the Bombs Act?
Yes.
Do you support defensive aid to Israel like the Iron Dome?
Look, on this, I do support the safety and the security and the self-determination of all people. But I also think that in this moment, when Israel has broken and demonstrated its inability to actually protect human rights and is committing genocide, then they no longer should receive any aid from the U.S. government. Full stop. And they have also said that it's time. The Netanyahu administration has said,
yeah,
it's
I don't
time
really
for
care.
them.
I don't really care about their perspective on this, because I will say, much like with ICE, I am personally not only in favor of ending aid, but also an arms embargo in general.
True.
And also to hold Israel accountable, not only to restrain Israel, but to hold Israel accountable in the Court of International Law. And I feel like that's a conversation that gets lost in this circumstance. Like the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu is in favor of also ending aid. I mean, he's been saying that since 1994, I believe. So it's irrelevant. It's immaterial to the conversation.
But also, AIPAC and the politicians that they buy then go and say, well, even though for damn near 20 years or just over 20 years, the Israeli government has said, we no longer need that support, we should end that support, they are still going and providing millions of dollars of aid. Then we wonder why we can't have nice things. We ought to instead invest those dollars here at home, right?
Yeah.
To advance Medicare for all, to advance affordable housing, to do that work.
Will you advocate for a single democratic state with equal rights for all?
Look, I feel like I need to allow for those conversations to happen in a way where Palestinians and Israelis and everybody who's living in Gaza.
But what would be your perspective?
I think that they need to figure out what that self-determination looks like for them.
Okay.
If that means that Palestinians decide that they want support from the U.S. government to rebuild, that's something that we should absolutely, as the United States government, help to fund, because we were complicit in that destruction, right? What I believe, as a Chicana, as someone who has witnessed borders crossing over and turning my ancestors into U.S. citizens overnight, right? After the consequence of a war. I know what that feels like. And I feel like for myself, I should not be saying, here's what I am going to inflict upon people in a land that I've never lived in. But I want to ensure that they can make those decisions for themselves, rooted in their own justice and humanity.
Okay. In April 2026, at about 4 months into you participating in this race, Hickenlooper came out and had a change of heart.
Oh.
For the first time, he finally voted yes on Bernie's resolutions to block the bulldozer and 1,000-pound bomb sales. The same kinds of resolutions that he had voted against in 2024 and again last summer. Do you believe that John Hickenlooper has finally had a change of heart? Or do you feel like your primary challenge actually forced him to reevaluate his voting record on this?
I think this is an incredible demonstration of why primaries matter. Because I think had I not been in this primary race, he would have never had to even think about it, never had to consider it. And so absolutely, I don't think that this was somehow some sort of moral shift on his part. I think it was pure politics in order to try to take that issue off the table.
Yeah. Here's an issue you can't take off the table. In October 2025, Hickenlooper voted to give the Department of War $925 billion, which was $32 billion more than they even requested. Mm-hmm. It's good on them to offer a little tip on the top. That's Pete Hegseth's Department of War. In the months that followed, the U.S. Bombed Venezuela, kidnapped its leader, and is now wasting around $1 billion per day by conservative estimates, dropping Tomahawk missiles on children's schools in Iran. If you're elected as senator, how would you spend $1 billion per day to improve the lives of folks here in the United States of America, even if it's the least patriotic thing you could possibly do?
I mean, budgets are moral documents. And when we are measuring the health and well-being of our economy by what the oligarchs and what the NASDAQ stock market is telling us, as opposed to judging the well-being of our society by how we take care of our babies and our elders, I would invest $1 billion a day instead of bombing other people's babies and elders. I'd put that money here, invest that in universal child and elder care.
In a ballroom?
Only in a ballroom, clearly.
How about 2 ballrooms?
Can we do 3?
Okay, good. We're on the same page.
Sweet.
You heard that, right? Donald Trump, stop trying to prosecute me. We are in favor of multiple ballrooms. Have a ballroom for your other ballroom.
Each direction. We can have one on the north, south, east, and west.
Yeah, put a ballroom everywhere.
Oh my God.
That's what I say.
Oh my God.
Potentially, millions of your constituents work jobs that are susceptible to being replaced by AI. What's your vision to protect families in Colorado and all around the United States from losing their careers to some chatbots that make Silicon Valley tech bros even richer and even more annoying? Would you support an AI data center moratorium?
Yes. And Colorado was one of the first states in the country to take up AI regulation because Congress couldn't get its shit together. They were doing the absolute least. So Colorado stepped up and put forward regulations to say, look, there are protections in place if you are discriminated against, if you're discriminated by a human being. But there were no protections in place if you had been discriminated against by an AI chatbot, right? So like we put those protections in place. And I have to be really honest, the AI lobby lost their ever-loving minds about it and worked. And then actually Elon Musk earlier this year sued Colorado based on that law from 2 years ago. And it forced us to shift a lot of the regulations that we had put forward. At the end of the day, I do believe that AI needs to be regulated at the federal level. That is the path forward, as opposed to creating a patchwork of different regulations across the country. But on top of that, you also have this proliferation of data centers across the state of Colorado. There's one in my Senate district, Core Site, has come up and is being built literally across the street from a senior living facility their diesel backup generators are across the street, and like you cannot get closer to them from the front entrance to this senior living facility. And it's like,
well, they don't have much time anyway.
Jesus, man, that's dark.
But that was probably what they were thinking when they put it there.
It's just like, it's ugly to see how far these corporations are willing to go in order to try to just extract profit. I don't know if you know this, but Colorado is in a super devastating drought right now. And the amount of water that these data centers would utilize really threatens already the real precarious balance of the Colorado River. And who's going to pay for the electricity upgrades? It's going to be all of the taxpayers, all the ratepayers, right? And so there were.
But don't you think it's good if people pay more for their electricity just so we can have the ugliest art anyone's ever seen?
Support local artists.
Do you not feel like that's an adequate trade-off?
Sorry, that's not a thing.
I'm working on a project where I'm recreating the Cars cinematic universe. So I need AI.
I love that for you. Can I just say?
I also personally love being watched. I'm into voyeurism, so it's also very cool that there's constant surveillance taking place. And that's something I personally enjoy, and I think other people should get used to it.
Well,
what do you have to say to that?
Maybe you too, along with the executives at Palantir, would find a welcome mat out to donate to John Hickenlooper's campaign.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you, he was being supported by those surveillance companies, by those AI companies, and until the folks at Purge Palantir called him out, then he was like, oh, my bad. I actually still don't know if he's actually returned those contributions or given them to immigrant rights organizations or what have you, but he is exceptionally good at doing the absolute least until he's called out for it and then being like, oh, I'm sorry. So anyway, I would just say that these data centers are brutal. They are devastating people and our planet. And that neighborhood that they have chosen to build their data center in, community, that neighborhood, Global Elyria Swansea, shout out to the north side. They're already one of the most polluted zip codes in the entire country. They are just downwind of Suncor, which is a oil manufacturing and oil refinery that provides a lot of the jet fuel for Denver International Airport, right? And so to see the way that poor communities of color continue to get impacted by the old energy, the energy of the old, like in terms of oil and gas refineries, and then also these data centers is just exhausting. And it got so bad that there was a community meeting that CoreSite, this data center corporation, realized that community was going to show up to, and so they dropped out the morning of the meeting. There were hundreds of people demanding answers about what this data center was going to do, who was going to pay for it, and what their plans in terms of electricity and water and all these things were going to be. And CoreSite's answer was, never mind. And so just actually last week, Denver City Council advanced a 1-year moratorium on data centers, which shout out to Sunrise, shout out to GES Coalition, shout out to all the local organizers who made that moratorium happen. And also 1 year is not enough, right? And we've seen these corporations pit local communities against local communities. That's why I support Bernie Sanders' moratorium on data centers altogether, so we can actually understand what is going to be the environmental implication and how do we regulate the AI that is producing the slop that is just pickling our brains.
Okay. Speaking of pickled brains, you've been critical of Chuck Schumer's leadership in the Senate. Do you think it's finally time for him to run for president, or is he not old enough just yet?
I think he's got to wait another couple of terms.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, but I think that that's a good goal. If he just keeps at it. No, man, honestly, he is Chuck Schumer is a huge part of why Americans can't have nice things. He has effectively managed our descent into fascism instead of doing the work to listen to the rage of the base and actually build an opposition party to this MAGA extremism. He's instead just engaged in the politics of go along to get along, poll-tested politics that results in nothing happening. And the billionaires and the corporations that they control raking in the corporate profits while they still can. I wouldn't support Chuck Schumer to continue on as the Democratic leader. And I think that also with Amy Klobuchar and Dick Durbin stepping aside, that there's a real opportunity for an entire new generation of Senate Democratic leadership that can actually divest us from our addiction to corporate PAC money and actually return us to being a party for the working people.
All right. I got two last questions for you.
And I have a question for you as well.
All right, perfect. Well, me first.
Okay.
This is the Zoran method.
Great.
He was able to define his own campaign by 5 easy-to-identify policies. I think this is a very successful way to go about it. What are your top 5 priorities for Colorado, and how would you go about implementing them?
All right. Medicare for all, universal child and elder care, abolish ICE, get dark money and corporate PAC money out of our politics, and housing first.
Okay, that was great. All right, now your question before we get into the rapid fire round.
Okay, here's my question.
All right.
Are you a DSA member?
I'm not.
Okay. How do you identify?
Well, there's a couple different reasons why I say I'm organization agnostic. I work with DSA the most out of any organization. But I'm not a paying member of the Democratic Socialists of America. And the reason why I do that is because I don't want, I say a lot of stuff, and sometimes it can potentially impact the way an organization is seen by outsiders. Like even with the subpoena, Fox News reported me as a DSA member and as a headlining member of the DSA.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid things like that. That's part of the reason. I mean, I love the Democratic Socialists of America.
Me too. Me too.
And they're amazing. I mean, I have this was a custom made Denver DSA hat that I got.
Malak, shout out.
Yeah, that I wear everywhere. And that's the only reason. But I work closely with the DSA, probably the most. But I'm org agnostic, like PSL, DSA, doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I just want to step back from that, because it was one of the earlier questions that you'd asked me is like, why are you a member, and why did you let your membership lapse? Like, I'll just be really honest. Like, I did a lot of organizing work for years. And like being a member of an organization is something that I take really seriously. And like, I don't want to be a member in name only and then not show up and then participate, right? Like I am values aligned. I also was a founding member of Working Families Party, but like now as an elected official, like I've stepped back from that. But now I'm endorsed by Working Families Party. Like I'm endorsed by Sunrise. I'm endorsed by the AFL-CIO and Rocky Mountain Equality Action Fund, and like a whole constellation, right, of progressive and leftist local and state elected officials, right? Like, I really appreciate that. Like you being willing to like understand how your positionality within a broader movement matters, right? And like we have to treat that with the nuance that it requires and it deserves. I do identify
as a socialist, though. That's I mean, I'm very open about that. I don't even mind being called a communist, even though I don't know if I would be considered a communist regardless. So that's like my reasoning for DSA is not like ideological. I love the Democratic Socialists. They're great.
Yeah. And I do too. Like they're, I think, doing beautiful, powerful work of reminding folks who have been left out of the party. Like I'll say, like as a Latina, as a Chicana, right? Like for a long time, the Democratic Party treated folks in my community like just base voters, that we just had to be reminded to go and get out the vote. When like actually the Republican Party and especially MAGA extremists have been going and targeting and actually trying to persuade Latino men especially, right, to go and leave the Democratic Party and adopt that MAGA extremist vibe. And I think that DSA, Working Families Party, Sunrise, like those organizations are doing beautiful work to remind folks we don't have to settle for crumbs. We can actually live our values, and we can actually have nice things if we're willing to stand up and fight for them. And so I take that like perspective as an organizer and as a member of a broader movement, right? Really seriously, and think of it, it matters. And so, I don't know. I really appreciate you being willing to chat about that with me.
Yeah. All right. Rapid fire questions before I let you go. And thank you so much for
Absolutely.
taking time out.
Absolutely.
Are you in favor of Medicare for all?
Yes.
Universal child care?
Yes.
Abolishing and prosecuting ICE?
Yes.
Abolishing private prisons?
Yes.
Raising taxes on billionaires?
Hell yes.
Raising the minimum wage?
Absolutely.
Implementing-
Thriving wage.
Implementing the Green New Deal?
Yes.
Ending Citizens United?
Yes.
Banning congressional stock trading?
Yes.
Hickenlooper's not going to like that. Ending America's embargo on Cuba?
Yes.
Ending America's war on Iran?
Yes.
Ending aid to Israel?
Yes.
A free Palestine?
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you so much, Julie Gonzales, everybody. For people that are hearing you for the first time today, what do you want them to understand about your convictions, and how can people contribute to your campaign, both inside of Colorado and outside?
Absolutely. Look, whether it's been in people's living rooms as they're like taking the first steps towards getting involved and getting organized for the first time, whether that has been in the halls of power, it's real clear, dude. Nobody's coming to save us but us. And so the work that we all are collectively doing to remind people that we can have nice things if we're willing to stand up and fight for them, that's the work. That's the work of this campaign. We've gone around, and I'll just be really honest. I first started thinking about challenging John Hickenlooper immediately in the aftermath of the passage of H.R. 1 last summer, when we got dragged back into a special session where we had to cut $1 billion from our state budget. And I'll say 2/3 of our schools our school districts in Colorado are already on 4-day school weeks. We don't have enough money to keep the lights on 5 days a week for our classrooms. And I thought like, oh, but it won't be possible. It won't be possible. The establishment is going to be too big. And then 2 things happened. 1, Zoran won in New York, and 2, the MAGA extremists in the Aurora City Council got kicked to the curb. Even though those MAGA extremists were funded here and the community-centered progressive candidates were funded here, they out-organized and outworked, and they swept those elections. Same thing was true in city council races and school board races across Colorado, where you had like Moms for Liberty school board candidates trying to run to ban books instead of, making sure that kids had the education and support to be able to read them, and
That's what kids need more, less books.
there you go. You go. Problem solved, right? Like, oh, we don't want to actually fund our schools. Let's just have your resources.
I feel like the next gen is going to be illiterate at this point.
It's brutal. And so after that victory took place, that's when I was like, you know what? Not only like should I not be afraid by the fact that Hickenlooper has tons of money in the bank and is also personally incredibly wealthy, I shouldn't allow that thing to scare us, because if we don't do it, who will?
Yeah.
Right? And so before I let you go, I also have a couple of things that I want to share with you.
All right,
if
let's
that's
go.
Okay.
I love gifts.
Yay!
Okay. You just pull it open. Yep. There you go. Okay, they got some gifts coming in. Ask about the nails? Okay, yeah, you gotta also show chat your nails because they want to see them before you go.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, I come bearing gifts.
Okay.
And I'm so grateful for the gifts that you shared. Let me explain. This is the Julie Gonzales for U.S. Senate.
Beautiful.
And abolish ICE. Now, I want to explain first the hummingbird, which is part of our logo. In Mexica culture, Huitzilopochtli is the god of war, and warriors are reincarnated as hummingbirds. A. B. Hummingbirds also migrate vast distances, and they take different routes when they're traveling north and then when they're traveling south. And so I wanted to remind folks that migration is natural. And so that's why we do the hummingbird. We made out of one of our campaign t-shirts, we made a bandana for your dog. But I think
she might be a little too big.
Yes, I have Shih Tzus, so
yeah, no, this is,
I apologize.
This is probably not
my
good.
Size. So I was.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
This is one of the other amazing, incredible organizations organizing young people. New Era Colorado Action Fund, Tax the Rich, Fucker, and I like to make billionaires cry. So, with love from the crew at New Era.
By telling them heartfelt stories.
There you go.
Okay. Whoa.
Democracy needs immigrants. I got trained up to understand how to run for office or how to be a political worker through New American Leaders Action Fund. There are 2 buttons. One from my campaign and the other, always trust Black women. Nobody is free until everybody is free. Fannie Lou Hamer. And then, because there is so much toxicity and vitriol and pain in this world, I bring you some sage because may it be cleansing for you. May it always be a reminder of the good work that we all are trying to do, even in the midst of great challenge and crisis.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that. This is, have you burned sage before?
My mom does, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So as a Chicana, like, I've been using lots of sage in my life. Jessie Broom is an incredible artist in Colorado. Not only did she design our campaign logo, she also designed these beautiful stickers. Do you know Blucifer at
the airport, right?
Yeah.
The freakish horse, the scary horse.
So the story of Blucifer, who P.S. is patron saint of Denver and the international airport, Blucifer killed his artist,
his creator. What I've heard, yeah. He's got bad vibes.
So you gotta ask for Blucifer's blessings whenever you travel.
Okay.
For smooth travels at DIA. Last 2 things. My husband, Ben, shout out, babe. He organizes La Raza Park Day, which used to be called, it's a park in the north side, that used to be called Columbus Park, if you can believe it. Even though that neighborhood, which had been Italian, had been Chicano for a long time, everybody called it La Raza Park. We actually fought to rename the park as La Raza Park, and then my husband organizes La Raza Park Day. And so on the front, you can see.
And on the back.
Solidarity, you love to see it. So my husband has a Cadillac. You can see it in the launch video. It's the green Cadillac Calais. And so he's like, big. We met, like, I was doing political organizing. He was doing,
And you saw the Cadillac, and you were like, I'm
was like,
smitten.
absolutely. And he was doing I was doing political organizing. He was organizing like, art shows, hip hop shows, organizing like culture. And, dude, as much as political organizing is complicated, organizing artists, whole other world. Shout out, babe, I love you. And then this is from Chris Newman over at Endelon. They're doing the National Day Laborers Organizing National Day Laborers Organizing Network is doing all of the ICE out of LA organizing. And,
Hell yeah.
you know, he wanted to make sure that you had that to keep us all safe. ICE, you should put ICE, DOJ,
Yeah.
all of them.
I don't know if they'll listen to that sign,
Shoot.
but we'll see.
Constitution protects us all. Ask, know your right. Have you done a know your rights training real quick?
Yeah.
You know, hey, am I free to leave or am I being detained? If you're free to leave,
I have been
bounce.
detained by Customs and Border Patrol before.
Then you already know, man. You don't say anything other than your full name and your date of birth. That is it.
Yeah, I need that. I need
Ask
one
to
for
speak to a
Fox
lawyer.
News. Get Fox News off my property.
Shoot, there you go.
Yeah.
Do you want to see these nails?
Yes, please show
All
them.
right. All right. I'll just
Here,
show
we'll
them
just-
here.
We'll do a closer camera.
And
too.
I'll say, shout out to like on Instagram, Nayeli's Pretty Sets. She hooked it up. She is a Chicana nail artist in the Denver area, and she is just brilliant. So she put my campaign logo.
That's sick.
She also put the mountains on my campaign logo is actually the mountains in southern Colorado where my family's from, where we go back generations.
They want you to get closer. You got to get closer.
shoot. All right,
Just get right up in there. It'll. Oh,
Maybe. There you go. Okay, so my family goes back generations down in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains in Gardner, Colorado. That's where my people are. Let's see. I had a loteria card here. I'm sorry, I snagged it on something, so don't look at that one. We got a rose. We've got some pinstriping, lowrider pinstriping here. We've got the corazón sagrado here. And then we've got a cactus. And then the hummingbird here. And then we've got some talavera inspired chrome here. And then local Denver artist Rob Yancey built me this beautiful piece. So, you know, I'm ready for a fight.
Hell yeah. All right. Julie Gonzales, thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate you.
This was wonderful.
This is beautiful. Thank you. Thanks everybody in the chat for also doing y'all's thing. It's beautiful to see. It's kind of overwhelming to see, if I'm going to be really honest.
Yeah. All right. You
Órale.
were great. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, chat. I'm gonna get back to the video that we were watching. I'm gonna take a photo with them, and then I'll be back in a second. Okay.